So, this will be my review of the movie Sinners. This will not be a start to finish review. I just want to point out some things in the film that I think are important to my audience in particular. And there will also be spoilers in this video. So, if you do not want spoilers, click off now. Also, if you want to only hear good things about this movie or the cast, this will not be the video for you. But like my other movie reviews, I will start off with what I liked about the film and then move on to my critiques. So, Sinners is primarily a horror movie written and directed by Ryan Coogler, and it is about twin war veterans Smoke and Stack, both played by Michael B. Jordan. And the movie is set in the 1930s Mississippi during the Jim Crow era. And in a nutshell, the twins are returning to their hometown, Mississippi, after robbing Italian and Irish gangsters in Chicago, and then they use the money to open a juke joint in Mississippi. So the twins' cousin, Sammy, sings at the juke joint's opening night. His music, which has supernatural abilities, summons a vampire, and it goes left from there. And the entire movie is an allegory for cultural appropriation of Black music, Black art, and Black culture. And the vampires in the movie, of course, represent the culture vultures, who are white people, and the system of white supremacy. And even though I do have my issues with the movie, I do think it was well made. My favorite part is the juke joint scene, the montage of Black music across the diaspora, and its evolution and connection to blues music and other art forms and cultures. That scene was done beautifully. And even though I have a huge problem with the dysfunctional messaging in our music and culture as Black people, the talent we have is undeniable. And as a musician myself, I have a deep connection to and appreciation for music. So that for me was the best part of this movie. I also like that the film paid homage to hoodoo and the spiritual practices of the African people who were brought to the U.S. during the slave trade. I like that their spirituality wasn't demonized in this movie. And I did have some issues with Wunmi Osaku's character, Annie, but her being a hoodoo priestess really spoke to the woo-woo in me. So that part of her character I enjoyed and I resonated with. And I like that two beautiful dark-skinned women were the love interests, but they still got a lot wrong with their representation in the movie, in my opinion. And this is where my critiques come in. Something I picked up on was that despite being a desirable love interest, Annie still played a mammy role. And I can tell by the way Black women are responding to this movie that a lot of y'all didn't pick up on that, or maybe you don't care. And I think that's because these Hollywood creatives and their teams are listening to our conversations. So they know now that just overtly displaying dark-skinned women fighting on the front lines for Black men like they did in the Black Panther movie, if they've been listening to us, they know that that wasn't gonna cut it right now. Not in the Black woman soft life era, right? So they had to portray Black women as a softer version of Mammy this time. And they mixed in a little Black love in there and also made you the love interest of the heartthrob in the movie, Michael B. Jordan, who don't even date women who look like the love interest in real life, but whatever. But they mixed that in there to distract you from the fact that Annie was still a Mammy. Not in the traditional sense of the word, but a mammy for the Black male collective and everyone else around her. So instead of being on the front lines physically fighting, this time, the Black woman in the movie was the spiritual mammy. She was the hoodoo high priestess who protected the Black men in the film with mojo bags and cooked catfish for everyone at the juke joint and had to school everybody on how to ward off the vampires with holy water and garlic. And notice, Annie's root work protected Smoke from the vampires, but somehow she still got unalived by a vampire and he didn't. So if that isn't a metaphor for Black women protecting Black men from white supremacy and becoming the sacrifice, I don't know what is. And in an interview I read that Wunmi did with the Hollywood Reporter, she actually described Annie being Smoke's protector, his teacher, his lover, his friend, and his mother. So even when a plus-size dark-skinned Black woman is portrayed as the lover to a Black man in a movie, she still got to be his protector and his mama too. And when it comes to the roles that are given to plus-size women, especially plus-size dark-skinned women, they just have to make them a mammy in some capacity. They just can't be a lover in movies like other races of women are portrayed. And at this point, I believe Ryan Coogler specifically likes to portray dark-skinned women as protectors of Black men, because that's pretty much what he did in Black Panther. And I don't want Black women to get so caught up in the sex scene of this movie and the Black love in this movie that y'all miss that. And I saw where Black women on TikTok were mad about people thinking that Annie was Smoke's mama or his auntie or his bigger sister and not his lover. And it sparked this whole discussion about the mommification of plus-size Black women, and especially plus-size dark-skinned women, and how nobody feels like they are deserving of love. And I do agree with that. I don't think most people are used to seeing women like Wunmi as love interests, and I think for some people, their internalized bias threw them off. However, I think that we as Black women also need to be honest about the imagery in this film. Even in the promo pictures that they did of Smoke and Annie, she gave off a very motherly vibe. And she was standing up and he was sitting down. I mean, she kind of did look like his mama. And then when you compare these pictures to the promotional imagery of Stack and Mary, you can see the differences. They intentionally made Annie look matronly and motherly and mammy-ish on purpose because that was part of her role. She wasn't just Smoke's lover. Like Wunmi said in the interview, she was his protector and his mama too. And that is how Black men see a lot of dark-skinned plus-size Black women in real life. And we also have to be honest about the fact that when extra weight is on a person's body, it does tend to age them, no matter the race or gender. So that's another thing that contributed to Annie being mistaken as Smoke's mother or his auntie. So with that being the case, they should have gone the extra mile to make her look more like a lover. Not saying she was supposed to be in full-on glam, but that sex scene with her and Smoke was hot. So I think they could have done more to make her look more youthful and sexy to match that energy. Not overly sexy, but just a little bit more oomph like they did with Perlene and Mary. And they definitely could have done that with a plus-size woman. They did do much better with her appearance at the ending scene when she was in the afterlife with the baby. But in the rest of the movie, she did look matronly, and they did that on purpose. And dark-skinned plus-size Black women need to stop allowing them to play y'all like this, especially if you're complaining about being mommified. Tell them to step it up. Don't just accept the bare minimum. Dark-skinned plus-size Black women can be promoted with sex appeal too, even in period pieces. We also have to be honest about how they would never have cast a matronly plus-size white woman to play a love interest for a fit, muscular man like Michael B. Jordan. And even if they did, they would have probably found a way to make her sexy. And have any of you questioned why Mary wasn't plus size? They could have gotten a plus size white woman to play her, but they didn't. Why? So Black women, you got to recognize when they are low-key downplaying your beauty and undermining you with white women. And for the people who are going to say, oh, well, Annie represents the everyday Black woman. Okay, but Mary doesn't represent the everyday white woman, though. So if we're going with the everyday woman talking point, cool. Then a plus-size white woman should have been cast as Mary. And don't tell me that they don't exist, because the average woman in America is size 16 or 14, I believe. And that includes white women. That includes non-Black women. And we know many Black men in real life date overweight white women. So if it's all about representing the reality, then that should have been in the film as well. And this is no shade to Wunmi or any fat women of any race or color, but I do notice that fat white women and mixed women are rarely cast as love interests. So I would like to see them represented in the same way fat Black women are represented. And also as love interests for fit, muscular men. And again, because I know y'all mad, this is not me saying that plus size Black women, plus size dark-skinned women can't be beautiful or can't be love interests. But if you want effective promotion, Black women, it needs to be more balanced when Black women are in film next to non-Black women as main characters. So that means either they need to put more fat non-Black women next to slim Black women. And if a plus-size woman is promoted next to a slim, feminine white woman, she need to look good as fuck, not matronly like a mammy. That is the only way Black women's promotion is going to be corrected, ladies. And for those who are going to say, oh, well, how is Annie undermined when Perlene was there? Perlene definitely balanced out the promotion somewhat, optics-wise, because again, her character had flaws too. But optics-wise, she did balance it out somewhat. But the love interest of the quote-unquote heartthrob matters most. I'm not saying that Perlene was insignificant, but whoever the love interest of the heartthrob in a film or show is, holds the most weight in the eyes of most people. So in this case, the heartthrob is Smoke and Stack, or Michael B. Jordan. So that's another reason why people thought Annie was Smoke's mama. They were subconsciously comparing her to Mary because she was the other main love interest. And when it comes to Perlene, which was played by Jamie Lawson, she was the Jezebel in the film, if you noticed. And I saw where people were calling Perlene the Jim Crow 304 and harping on her being married and having an affair with Sammy. But they forget that Mary, the white woman character, was married just like Perlene. But nobody is calling her a 304. Why? Because the representation was different. Even though, I think all the women in this movie were a little bit freaky and they were definitely sexual, well, most of them in the movie, they still portrayed Mary as someone who was genuinely in love with Stack and wanted a relationship with him. But, circumstances just wouldn't allow them to be together as an interracial couple. But they portrayed Perlene as someone who just wanted to have a good time and just have a fling with another man at the juke joint. A virgin at that, because I think Sammy was a virgin at the time. And so, Perlene just wanted to have fun and be a Jezebel singer who likes to gyrate on stage. And they also made sure to show her as a vampire attacking everybody with the white vampires at the end. So basically, the non-mammy, free-spirited black woman in the movie was not only the Jezebel that cheats on her husband, but she was also symbolic of the traitor, or maybe even the coon that joins the white people to take black people down. And yes, there were other black people who turned into vampires as well. I'm just highlighting the symbolism behind the two dark-skinned woman main characters and how they align with how dark-skinned women are viewed by black men in the black community in real life, and how they expect us to be and how they view us when we are and aren't mammies. It's like when we aren't mammies, then we're traitors, right? Or Jezebels. I also noticed that both Annie and Perlene's death were the most gruesome compared to the other women who were unalived in the film. And then Smoke unaliving Annie after she was bitten by the vampire because she told him she didn't want to come back as a vampire. To me, that was symbolic of the black woman's sacrifice for black men as well, and their failures being the primary reason for our condition as women and as a community, because he was the reason that she was even there. The twins were the reason that all those women were there and got. So that's another takeaway, ladies. Stop following these niggas. But yeah, so even though the two dark-skinned women were love interests, there were still a lot of missed opportunities to bring more quality to their characters, in my opinion. But, we really can't expect much coming from movies written and directed by black men. So none of this surprises me. And I know a lot of black women don't like what I'm saying right now, but since you're complaining about how your promotion is being perceived and you're complaining about being mommified and all that stuff, I'm giving you the game on how to fix it. Y'all got to compete. You have to improve your promotion and stop undermining yourself and allowing your image to be undermined. You have to stop accepting the bare minimum, ladies. I am just saying the quiet part out loud because nobody is going to be honest about it. This is how all races of women play the promotional game. And black women still have not caught on to it. So I'm putting you on so you can jump in the game. You don't just want promotion. You want effective promotion. You want corrective promotion. And corrective and effective means that we aren't being undermined in any way by the non-black women in the film because the media rarely ever allows non-black women to undermine us. So we shouldn't allow that shit either. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of these women in the film, any of the dark-skinned women in the film in real life. This is just about how they're being used in the movie. And I'm pointing all of this out because I want black women to look beyond the black love in this movie and not just accept these kind of roles because black women are being cast as love interests. The quality of the roles matter and the optics matter as well. And I don't know if any of you picked up on it, but I noticed this anti-money messaging in the film and this narrative, money is the root of all evil. That was heavily pushed in this movie, especially when it came to Annie's character specifically. When Smoke tried to give Annie the money and provide for her, she refused it. And she said she didn't take Smoke's money because it was cursed, but she damn sure took the D though. You won't take cursed money, but you backing it up on cursed peen. Make it make sense. The money is evil and cursed, but the man who robbed the gangsters to get the money ain't evil and cursed. Then you left with his curse behind, and being with him got you unalived by the vampires. Does that sound familiar, ladies? Same stuff, different time period. Art imitates life. Y'all out here sacrificing yourself for these niggas. That's the message. That's the metaphor. And it's so interesting that black men get mad when black women lust over thugs and bad boys. And then they release these movies that depict black women lusting over thugs and bad boys, and they romanticize their lifestyles. And then when black women act it out in real life and somebody gets hurt or unalived, then it's, oh, y'all should have chose better. But this is the kind of entertainment that black men keep making for black women to consume and romanticize. Because regardless of if this film was set in the Jim Crow South, Smoke and Stack were definitely the thugs of that time. They were the black community thugs of the Jim Crow South. They just wore suits instead of hoodies and white tees. And so it's wild how black people act like money is so immoral, but don't practice morality in any other area. They rob, steal, and kill, put that in their entertainment for black people to consume, but money is where y'all draw the line? That doesn't make sense. And the moral of the story is any so-called morality and refusal to take Smoke's cursed money, that did not save her. And black women, that should be one of the takeaways from this movie, in my opinion, because a lot of y'all are too hung up on morals and then don't even follow through with it. Y'all participate in this faux morality and then you still end up losing and becoming the sacrifice. And I feel like the money is the root of all evil narrative being pushed in this movie is to kind of keep black people believing that money doesn't matter when it matters a lot. Now, should we worship money and put money above everything in the world? No, but it matters, especially when it comes to black women choosing men to date and have children with. It's not inherently moral to birth children into poverty. Struggling financially is not inherently moral or righteous. And see, movies like this is how they convince black women of that nonsense. They'll put in these non-black woman characters like Mary and Grace in this movie, and they'll show them prioritizing money, and then they'll somehow link them doing that to their demise. And that's to send the message to black women specifically that money is evil, so that we will continue to believe that wanting money or wanting a man with money is wrong or cursed. And we don't realize that this is just them trying to condition us to deal with broke men and prioritize sex and attraction over money the way that Annie did in this film. Because money is something that black men don't have much of, but they can give you the D though. They got a lot of that to go around. So ladies, you got to pay attention to these mind games they're trying to play on you with these movies. I know y'all like the movie, but it had a lot of the same bullshit that they keep trying to sell black women. And notice how they showed Stack and Mary looking all lavish and living it up at the end of the movie, while Smoke and Annie were reunited in the afterlife. So there's this underlying message of, well, black women, you may have to suffer here on earth, but you'll be happy in the afterlife. And you shouldn't want all those material things, black women, because they're evil. And you're really not missing anything, because living eternally in heaven with your black man and your cute little black baby is better than living in sin and being of the world and having eternal life like those evil vampires. They might look good and have all this money and look like they're happy, but they're really miserable. They're living a life of misery. Meanwhile, in the real world, people are able to live happier, longer lives when they're financially comfortable. And of course, when you have money, life is not all rainbows and sunshine. But it's usually easier, and anyone who says it isn't is lying. And something else I noticed, Stack and Mary's behavior during their interaction with Sammy at the end of the movie, it was not typical of evil vampires. Because earlier in the movie, we saw how both of them were when they turned into vampires. They were completely soulless. So it was almost like Stack and Mary were intentionally being humanized at the end of the movie to make them seem a little bit less evil and more compassionate. And it worked, because a lot of people walked away from the movie feeling happy for them. Like, oh, well, they may be vampires, they may be evil, but now they get to love each other out loud. Now they get to live forever and not have to hide their love. So even though they're living in misery here on earth and, living in sin and being of the world, they still can be happy with each other and living their love happily. And see, that's why I say all this money is evil. That's bullshit, y'all. It's bullshit. Because if you believe that, you wouldn't even feel a happiness for them because they're so evil, right? And something else that stuck out to me was when Stack tried to throw Mary out of the juke joint because he didn't want her white husband or any other white man to find out she was there. And when she refused to leave, he said, oh, well, I'll just get one of these field bitches to drag you out of here. And she said something along the lines of, oh, well, I'll beat every bitch in here. You taught me how to fight. And Stack was obviously referring to the black women in the juke joint who worked on the plantation. And for me, that interaction was just so symbolic of how Black men will use Black women to go after white women and other non-Black women that they're fucking with but don't like, or that they feel crossed Black men, or they will use us as attack dogs for white supremacy. And it also was very symbolic of how Black men disrespect Black women and allow them to also disrespect us as well. And I don't know why I don't hear Black women talking about that scene. It just seems like y'all just got so distracted by the sex scene between Annie and Smoke that y'all didn't realize all the other shit that was going on in the movie. And I noticed that some Black women online, y'all are also being real soft on Mary's character in the movie. And you're trying to one-drop rule Haley Steinfeld, the white woman who played Mary. You're trying to one-drop rule her into Blackness in real life. And I guess it's because she has a grandfather who's half Black or something. But that's a white woman, y'all. Be for real. And some Black women are trying to claim Haley because she was the octoroon, or the tragic mulatto character in the movie that was in community with Black people and that wanted to be around Black people. And she said she didn't want to be white and she wanted to be with Stack. So, she's an honorary Black woman. And I even saw some Black women celebrating their love story because they got eternal life at the end, and they were able to exist in a time where they could love each other out loud as an interracial couple. And, when I see Black women responding like this, it really shows me that most of us are okay with Black men undermining us with white women in the media, and we are complicit in this. And I already knew that, but it just confirms it for me even further when I see the way y'all respond to films like this. Not only are y'all trying to claim this woman as Black, but you're overlooking the way that she disrespected and undermined the Black women in the movie with the permission of Black men. And one of the points in the movie is to highlight how quickly Black people are to invite outsiders to the cookout and make it capable for them to appropriate Black culture. And we saw that with how Stack eventually gave in to Mary, allowing her to stay in the juke joint, then giving her the green light to go outside and negotiate with the vampires, aka the white people, the cultural appropriators, to see if she could make a deal with them and make some money, quote unquote, make a deal with the devil, right? And in the process, she got turned into a vampire, came back in the juke joint, and that started the whole vampire takeover. So Stack essentially brought in the problem. He invited the white people to the cookout, and they took over. And even the Asian woman in the movie who was responsible for inviting all the vampires in, she was there because Smoke, a Black man, asked her to work at the bar. This is one of the main messages and warnings that Black people were supposed to take away from the movie, yet here Black women are trying to invite Haley, a white woman, to the cookout and claim her as Black. There was a scene in the movie where Remick, the vampire, was attempting to get in the juke joint, and Smoke told him to get out of there and go to a white club with his people. And in response, Remick said, "Oh, well, how did she get in?" Referring to Mary. And instead of allowing Mary to speak for herself, Annie jumped in and she said, "She's here because she's family." And that is exactly how we as Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, welcome non-Black women into our spaces with open arms. And then we complain when they take over and they undermine us. And so it's like y'all are doing the very same thing that the movie is like highlighting that Black people shouldn't do. And I don't want to call y'all slow, but oh my God, like what's not clicking? What's not clicking? And it's also interesting to hear the Black male hoteps, especially, talk about this film and discuss how Black people invite white and mixed people to the cookout when they're the main ones allowing it. Who brought Drake to the cookout? A Black man. Who brought in Iggy Azalea? A Black man. Who puts most of these mixed women on a pedestal in the Black community? Black men. Black women do too, but Black men bring them in more than anyone. And one of the top hotep niggas I heard reviewing this movie talking about white supremacy and how we need to beware of biracial tethers, this man has a biracial wife and a white mother-in-law. And I was listening to him and I was thinking, you are the nigga that you're talking about that's inviting them to the cookout. It's you. And you got a whole bunch of Black women in the comment section clapping. And when I see stuff like that, that's why I can't take the hoteps seriously. I can't take any of the hoteps reviewing this movie seriously. Y'all don't even practice what you preach in real life. And it's like, do y'all really think these kind of movies are going to encourage Black men to stop doing stuff like that in real life? I highly doubt it. So what this all boils down to, Black women, is that Sinners is a film to benefit the image of Black men and not Black women, like most of the movies that Black men create are. Even if there are parts in there that, make Black women look good, it is mostly for Black men. And, I scrolled through TikTok just to see what people were saying, and I did some research before I did this video, and I noticed reviews from several Black men who were praising all of the women in the film for their beauty. And they were lusting after all of them, not just the Black women. So while it was all about Black love to you, Black women, many Black men are looking at this film and they're noticing all of the women and they're lusting after all of them. This film was not as pro-Black to Black men as it was to you, ladies. The imagery of Smoke and Annie, the Black family with their little cute Black baby, that was to pull on Black women's heartstrings and keep us invested in the idea of Black love. Even though we've never seen Ryan Coogler or Michael B. Jordan with women who look like Annie or Perlene, and probably never will. And something else I noticed is that there was no interracial relationships between Black women and white men in this film. There was no Black women fucking on massa or sneaking around with the colonizer in this movie. And it actually could have been added in there and been historically accurate, but it wasn't in there for a reason. They made sure to show Black women with Black men only, and that was done intentionally. And be clear, I don't want to see no Black woman, white man, Jim Crow love story. I'm honestly tired of movies set in that time period, and I'm definitely tired of the slave movies. So I don't actually desire to see that. But I'm just telling you how they condition Black women specifically to be race loyal with these movies. It is very intentional. And this is why I personally think that Black women need more multicultural films to balance this shit out, where we too are promoted with all races of men, not just Black men. And Black women, you have to understand that these kind of movies are made to act out the fantasies that many Black men have of white women and white men. When Mary said she never wanted to be white or with a white man and she always wanted a Black man, that is like music to the Black man's ears. So her character is how they like white women to talk and behave towards Black men and Black women. Smoke unaliving all those white men in the Klan at the end, that's like a fantasy for Black men. They want to get back at white men for slavery and oppression. And that's part of why they keep making movies like this, where they killing whitey in all the movies. But you know what? They ain't about to do nothing about white supremacy in real life. So they make movies instead. They do it in make-believe. And the sad part is that for most Black women, this kind of symbolism is good enough for y'all. This is enough to give y'all hope in the Black man. He don't have to do nothing in real life. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but the main promotion of this movie that everybody was pushing, the media, Michael B. Jordan, everybody, were the love scenes between Stack and Mary. Until, of course, Black women started publicly swooning and celebrating Smoke and Annie's love story. Then all of a sudden, we see Michael B. Jordan posting videos of Smoke and Annie on his Instagram. But the Black men that y'all love, they weren't even originally promoting the Black love scenes like that. And I can understand using, Haley or, Stack and Mary to get people to see the film, get people of all races to see the film. But if it was truly a pro-Black movie and made to celebrate Black women and Black love, they would have been pushing that imagery regardless. And it would have been way before now. And that's how you know they were pandering to you ladies. And listen, my main issue with these kind of so-called pro-Black love movies is that Black women, we see these movies, we internalize the messaging, and it influences us to keep ourselves limited to the Black community and Black men. On the flip side, if Black women see themselves promoted with non-Black men, it's just going to convince some of them to open their options. Most Black women are not going to look at a Black woman and a white man in a movie and be as connected as they would be to a movie like this. And I'm not saying that that isn't normal, but the issue is that Black women are getting overly invested in these Black love movies, and Black men as a collective aren't doing that in return. Black men like seeing other Black men in movies with all races of women like we saw in this film. And they are showing us how they like Black men to be promoted, and they're also showing us how they like Black women to be promoted as well. As mammies, as Jezebels, and that is not corrective promotion. Good movie, but not corrective promotion for those who wanted my opinion on it. The movie was made well. But don't let that distract you from the fact that this is just another movie that was made to keep Black women trying to protect Black men, and it was made to condition you to stay in the mammy matrix. That is one of the purposes of this film. So Black women, enjoy the movie if you want to. But I encourage you, don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's all I'm saying. So that was my very unpopular opinion. I said what I said. Let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments. Let me know any symbolism that you saw that I failed to mention. Also, be sure to like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch up with you in the next one.